So who is coming on the who is not coming on who is coming on the pilgrimage? Who is not coming here? Mm. Okay. There's a kind of there's a mixture. So some of you are just finding out, is that right? You're kind of seeing maybe for the future, see what happens. Okay.
Okay, let
Good
us pay our respects to Ajahn first before we start.
Okay. So I guess what we can do, we can just have like, we don't have to be very formal, you know, we can relax, so we can just ask questions. Whenever you want to ask a question, just raise your hand and we can talk about things as we go along. So we don't have to be, you know, we can be a bit more at ease. So Ling, where are you? You're there. Okay. So should I just go ahead and start talking? Yeah. All right. Okay. So the idea of the pilgrimage, you will probably know this already, is that it goes back to the time of the Buddha. And the Buddha suggests that people who want to be inspired by the Buddha, they should visit the four kind of places. Four places: the birth of the Buddha, the awakening of the Buddha, the first discourse of the Buddha, and the passing away of the Buddha. The four places. And when you do that, the idea is to be inspired, by the Buddha, by his message, by these things. It leads to a kind of emotional experience. That's the idea. We talked yesterday about the idea of bringing up joy in the Dhamma, and this is one of those main ways of giving rise to joy, to feel that you are following the footsteps of the Buddha. You are kind of where the Buddha sat here, and now you're sitting where the Buddha sat. Imagine that feeling. The Buddha was sitting here, and then you feel a bit sort of, oh, the Buddha was sitting here, and you feel, is my mind pure enough to be sitting here? But it's very exciting and very, very, very interesting when you do this. There's four main holy sites in there, but there's also, and some of those holy sites are maybe not as inspiring as they were before. And one of the reasons is because often they're very noisy. There's many things happening there, lots of tourists, and they come from everywhere around the world. And some of them have no idea of peace. They have this enormous kind of ghetto blasters and microphones and these kind of things, and you get 10 tourist buses of and then they have this, everyone has to listen to the same monk kind of talking, so they have this enormous loudspeakers and things. They're not always so peaceful. So you have to organize things in a smart way to become more peaceful. And so that's why we have the itinerary is set up in a little bit like to enable us also to feel the peace of these places, because originally they were very peaceful places where the Buddha was meditating, obviously where he achieved awakening, etc. In those days, these places were far away. Now they are in the middle of the hustle and bustle sometimes. So times change, unfortunately. So sometimes fortunately, sometimes unfortunately. So for this reason, we're not just going to visit the main places, but also some of the subsidiary places. I will show you in a second what the itinerary is. And there are some places that are very nice, like Rajgir, which is very kind of far out of the way in the wilderness still, etc., etc. And this kind of gives an additional feeling of what it may have been like at the time of the Buddha. This can be very beautiful, the sense of solitude that you can get, do some meditation together for those who are interested in that. And that gives a kind of more spiritual aspect to the thing. The other places, sometimes you can get some very positive vibes. It depends a little bit, but it depends on, all kind of qualities of the place. We'll see what happens when we go there. People react very differently. Some people, they come to these places and they start crying, kind of tears streaming down the face. Ajahn Brahm tells the story. There was a lady in Perth. I don't know if you've heard this story before. She's an English woman, but she now lives in Perth with her husband. Her husband, he's kind of half Indian, half English. He looks like an Englishman, but apparently he has some Indian blood. And she was kind of dismissing this idea of going to India. Yeah, going to India, what's the big deal? Yeah, who cares about that? It's kind of boring. Just, just get sick and you get diarrhea, and that's kind of India for you. And but then when she got there, yeah, she was kind of overwhelmed by these very strong emotions, and she was one of these people who kind of just tears streaming down your face. And this can be a very beautiful experience. These are kind of positive tears, not tears of sadness, but tears of joy. And so this happens sometimes to people because it can be very powerful. And for others, it is not that experience. So it really varies depending on your kind of spiritual development, I suppose, and your inclination, kind of whether you are an emotional person or not so emotional, and all of these kind of things. Ajahn Brahm always tends to, he's little bit dismissive of pilgrimage to India. But he has been on a few already. Ajahn Brahm always says you shouldn't go to the 4 holy places outside, but the 4 holy places inside. Yeah. But not everyone has access to the 4 holy places inside. Yeah, they're quite hard to get to sometimes. Yeah, the bliss of the jhanas, these kind of things. So for the rest of us, we have to be a little bit content with the holy places outside, and maybe that will guide us towards the holy places inside later on. That's kind of the theory here. Yeah. So let me just show you a few things that. Any questions about that? Any comments? Yeah, no? Okay, maybe. Just at any time, please raise your hand if you want to say anything. Yeah. So let's see. Okay. So this is a book. This is one of the probably most well-known books on the pilgrimage to India. Called Middle Land, Middle Way. Is written by an Australian monk called Venerable S. Dhammika. He used to live in Singapore. Yeah, you know him, yeah. He was here for a long time. And he is quite knowledgeable especially about India. He has traveled a lot there. He has researched various sites. He has traveled around to find kind of obscure places that no one else knows about. There are certain places mentioned in the Suttas very occasionally that no one really knows where they are. And he kind of scouted out the landscape in India to find these things. So he was very interested. And so this book contains quite a lot of information about the places, about what it is to be seen, what you find there, the various stupas, the various, all the kind of details of the site. The book also contains a lot of information about which suttas were spoken in these places, what events took place there, why it is significant. And so this is another reason why it is a very useful book to have. It's a very good guide. So I would suggest to you that you read it before you go, and also bring it along on the journey. So you can read it as you go along, and it will give you a very good background for what is happening in India. Middle Land, Middle Way. Let me see if we can have a little bit of a look at this book. This is just from Google Books, so there's a lot of pages missing, but to give you some idea. Hey, it's copyright. What is going on? Okay, here we go. So have the various. Okay, here this gives you an idea. So there you have a nice map. Yeah, it shows you all the various important places and many not so important places. A variety of things. Yeah. So here you can see. So this is. So this is a bit about the history. So you can see here, it talks about certain monks who visited there. And then now we come to the various description of the various pilgrims who have been there in history. So Ashoka was one of the first pilgrims. And he visited here, obviously not so long after the time of the Buddha. So he is talked about. Then you have Fa Xian, one of the early pilgrims that came all the way from China and traveled from China to visit India. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but yeah. And then you have other Xuanzang. How do you say his name? Xuanzang, yeah. So So he is obviously probably the most famous of all the pilgrims that came from China and traveled all the way to India to retrieve scriptures and then translate them. He was also a very famous translator and translated them into Chinese when he came back to China again. So all of these things are here. Yeah, so there's quite a lot of interesting information in this book. The Pilgrims of Ancient Times. Dharma Swami. I don't know. I need to read this book myself. I'm not sure who this is. And then we come to more modern times. This is an
Ajahn,
yes.
is it possible to enlarge your, expand?
Enlarge. Okay. I wouldn't recommend you to read all this, but
Okay, thank you,
yeah.
Ajahn.
So this is Sir Alexander Cunningham. He was an Englishman who was in India towards the end of the 19th century, and he is very famous for, I don't think he was a Buddhist, but he was very interested in archaeology. And so he tracked down many of these holy places. They were lost in the jungle over many centuries, and he tracked them all down. Yeah, and he found these ancient places, and has one of the main people who identified them and made them available to us. And you know, one of the ways they were identified was to use the travelogue of Xuanzang, whatever, however you pronounce that. Xuanzang, yeah, don't even try to get me to say it because I will fail regardless of how many times I try. So he used those travelogues, and they had distances between various places, and then he used those to find these places again. So these are called Journeys to the West, I think, was the travelogues of this monk. Yeah, and for that reason, we have enough information to be able to find them. This is how historically they have been found. It was quite interesting, and so he did. The English did some good, not just bad things in India, did some good as well, finding these ancient holy places. So that okay? So okay, this is Dharmapala. This is the famous Anagarika Dhamapala, the Sri Lankan Anagarika. Various people of various kinds. This is how do you say this again? Xuanzang. Xuanzang. Okay, Xuanzang. Okay. So this is not the photography. This is more like a painting, I think. So we have so these are some of the places. These are relics. So these are Buddha relics over here on the left-hand side there. This is what we will see when we go to Delhi Museum. You will see these Buddha relics. Wow, lots of nice pictures in here. Okay, so this is this book. What else does it say? Sir Edwin Arnold, blah blah blah. Various things. Oh, this gives you an idea what the stupa looks like. So this is gives you the various names of the various parts of a stupa. So this is a typical stupa that you now find in Sanchi. We're not going to Sanchi, unfortunately. It was too difficult according to Eiling because of the travels. But this is what they look like, the real stupas, the ancient ones. Yeah, lots of nice pictures. This is the Buddha statue. Yeah, I recognize it. Yeah, this one here. This is a replica of this one. Saranath. Yeah, when we go to the museum in Saranath, you will be able to see the stupa there live. It's even more beautiful when you see the real one than the one that is you find here, which is a replica. These are kind of Greek. You see the stupa down here? These are Greek. You can see the nose. It's very kind of Greek kind of nose. That's how you recognize it. And it's different. And also the robe is more like a toga than an ordinary monk's robe. Various mudras, hand gestures of the Buddha statue. So lots of nice information in this book. Yeah. And then hints for pilgrims. Yeah. So whatever I don't tell you today, you will find in here. Like wash your hands often, keep your hands clean, otherwise you're going to get sick, that kind of stuff. Lumbini, various things. Okay, so let that be for now. And that is that book. Another book that you might be interesting for you is this book here, also Sravasti Dharmika. This is called Footprints in the Dust. It's a fairly new book, and it is the sources from the suttas from the life of the Buddha. Yeah, so this will give you kind of more real historical information from the suttas themselves. And this will be the sort of things that I will be looking at when we travel around. Yeah, we're going to look at these particular suttas in the various places and see what happened there. So again, I haven't really looked at this book, so hopefully I'm not kind of telling you something bad, but I believe this is probably likely to be a good source. Okay. So anyone have any comments so far? Yeah. Ah, okay. Yeah, all right. Okay, good. Excellent. Yeah. It is download for free, is it? The first one. But is that the old, that's the latest version? Probably good to get the latest version. Yeah, there is, I think, first published in 92, but the latest version is 2008, and it's going to be updated. Yeah, yeah. All right. So then we have the actual pilgrimage. We're going to have a little bit a look at the route. You see, I prepared myself to make it nice for everyone here. See, so this is let's see. This gives you a fairly nice idea of what is going on. Let's go a little bit out. Yeah, so you can see Singapore down in the right-hand corner. Yeah. So that's Singapore down there. And then you go north, you come to Bangkok up here. And then you have India all the way up in the left-hand corner, right top left-hand corner. And Delhi is up there somewhere. I'll see if I can get Delhi coming up. Jaipur. What about Delhi? There you are, New Delhi. You see New Delhi up there? Yeah. And this is the route that we're following. We're starting in New Delhi, but Google wouldn't allow me more than 10 places. So I couldn't, you have it kind of, put in the itinerary, and it wouldn't allow me more than 10. We had to write to Google and complain. We are going to India. They only allow 10 places. So this is the itinerary, and you can see it doesn't look all that long, but actually this is 1,400 kilometers. You may not be able to see that there, but that's what it is. So it's quite a long drive. And on top of that comes from New Delhi to the beginning point over here, which is another 300 kilometers or 1,700 kilometers, something like that, over 18 days. So it's not that bad. Yeah, I think it's 18 days. And so we will start off over here in New Delhi. And one of the main things that we're going to do there is to see the Buddha relics in the Delhi Museum. They have already been exhibited here in Singapore, right? A few years ago, they were here. So they will be the same ones, but now we can see them more in the natural setting. And these are probably the most authentic Buddha relics in the world, right? Sometimes people say, oh, these are Buddha relics on the shrine, and you think maybe, maybe not, don't know what they are. Very hard to trace their provenance, don't know where they come from. And sometimes you are a bit skeptical because the amount of Buddha relics seems to be more than is possible for a human body. Yeah, you can only have so many relics from a human body. So sometimes you feel a bit, yeah, okay, maybe. But these ones here are very interesting. Because the history of these things are also told in this book, Middle and Middle Way, because these were excavated from an ancient stupa. This was a stupa made by the Sakyans. The Sakyans are the family of the Buddha. After the Buddha was cremated, the remains were divided into 8 parts, 8 stupas, and one part went to the Sakyans, and so they built a stupa for him just outside of Kapilavatthu, yeah, and then that's where they were interred in the ground. And soon after this happened, the Sakyans, there was a war in the Sakyan countries, and all the Sakyans were slaughtered, and Kapilavatthu kind of went back into the jungle again. And for that reason, that stupa, it seems, was never actually touched. It remained in the jungle All the other stupas of those 8 stupas where it was divided, they were later on dug out, and the relics were divided into a large number of relics. This was done apparently by King Ashoka. But because this one went back to the jungle, back to the forest, it was never actually dug out until the 19th century. And there was this Englishman who owned this large estate. This place is called Piprava. And he saw this mound in the ground, yeah? And mounds are always exciting because mounds are not natural. There's something going on under the mounds. And India is full of mounds everywhere, yeah? So you know something ancient under the ground. If you want to find an ancient stupa in India, what you do, you take aerial photographs, you look for mounds, and then you go there and you start digging and you find something ancient. That's kind of one of the tricks of the trade, apparently. And some of the ancient stupas have actually been found in that way, some very interesting ones even. And so he dug into this ground. He got to a stupa with bricks, like a classical stupa shape. And then he made a excavation across the stupa, because the chamber where relics are kept or anything interesting is kept is usually in the middle of the stupa. So he made this kind of trench across the stupa, and then he came to this chamber in the middle. First there was one chamber, and then that had some interesting things, but it wasn't that interesting. Then he went deeper and found another chamber below. This is exciting, right? Imagine being this ancient archaeologist digging into these things, yeah? Don't know what is there. And then he came to this casket, which had an inscription that basically says, these are the remains kept by the Sakyans of the Buddha, or something to that effect. We will look at this later on. In this ancient Indian language, these are the so-called Brahmi characters that were used in India at the time of Ashoka, or even slightly earlier. These things can be dated, right? Because they have a very particular shape. Language changes, lettering changes over time. So you can tell from the way the letters are shaped exactly what historical period they belong to. And so these were dated to around Ashoka's time, maybe even slightly earlier, but around that time. So these are really, really ancient relics. And open them up, and lo and behold, the bones are still there, yeah, in that thing here. So because of all the historical facts that we have around this and how this happened, these are probably the most authentic Buddha relics in the world. So don't steal them when you go to the museum. Yeah, you have to you have to leave them there. I think probably very hard to steal, but don't, you know. So that's kind of exciting here. And that's interesting, and it kind of makes history more alive when you have something authentic like that. So that's why we're going to Delhi. Is there any other reason we're going to Delhi, Eiling? Main reason. Okay. So other reasons are more like secular reasons, yeah? Okay, so a few secular reasons and a few Buddhist reasons. Does that make us secular Buddhists? I hope. Hopefully not. So yeah, and then we go on the first day. We then go from we travel after the first day from New Delhi, and we'll travel to the first destination. I'm going to get us a bit closer here. You can see the whole route now, pretty much. But there's the whole route for you. New Delhi all the way up on the top left, and then you have Bodhgaya all the way down here in the bottom right. So this is what we are going to do. And you can see we get quite close to the Himalaya mountains. You see Nepal up here, quite close at the nearest point. And then we go back down again. And the Ganges River is down here. This is the Ganges River coming down here. So this is India. So the first stopping point over here, this is called Sankasa, or Sankasya, depending on which word you use. It unfortunately doesn't exist in the Latin alphabet. It's only in Devanagari, which is the ancient Indian alphabet. So this is this one over here, Sankasa. And this is, in my opinion, not so interesting here. But it is nevertheless, it is kind of on the way. So I think it's useful to stop there. And it is where the Buddha reputedly went to the heaven of the 33 to teach the Abhidhamma to his mother, this according to the mythology. And Sankasa is talked about a couple of places in the Vinaya Pitaka, and it seems to be, but not in the suttas at all. So it's kind of a slightly late compared to the other places where we're going here. But according to the legend, and this legend is found in the Milinda Panya, first of all, the questions of King Milinda, and that is where it says that this is where the Buddha, the Devas and the Buddha kind of came down after teaching the Abhidhamma in the heaven of the 33s. So that is Sankassa over here. So I don't have much more to say about that. We will see what is there. And then we go and we travel east, all this way, traveling. Lucknow, this is one large city, and all of this in one day, a lot of traveling here, until we get to, here we are, Shravasti. Yeah, this is Savatthi over here, Shravasti. You can see in the middle of the picture there. So now that all the things are coming up here, all the Buddhist sites are coming up for you. So you have the Jetavana over here. Yeah, that's one of the main sites that we're going to see. Jetavana over there. Then we have the Angulimala Stupa over here. The Lotus Sutra Hotel. Oh, okay. I was wondering how what was going on there. And there are some very large temples and things over here, which are not all that interesting. The main thing is the Jetavana over here. And it's a very beautiful site, very few buildings, very peaceful. Go there in the early morning before all the tourists come, as if we are not tourists, but before all the other tourists come. And this is, of course, where the Buddha spent the most years of his monastic life. So it's kind of interesting. And you get an whole idea of the town, because the town can still be seen, because you have all the mounds, the famous kind of clay mounds that were built around the city of Savatthi. And then you have the Jetavana outside. You get the feeling for the whole, how it worked. The Buddha and the monks, they would go in on arms around and they come back to the Jetavana. And this is where you have the fragrant kuti, the Ganda kuti. Which is supposed to be the place where the Buddha stayed, except that the Ganda kuti was built after the Buddha. But that's just a small little thing here. So that is Savatthi. Then, having gone to Savatthi, we then travel further. I go out a little bit so we don't spend too much time just going through. So then we go further east, going. All kinds of rivers, and all of these areas that you see here, these are areas where the Buddha would have walked at that time. Yeah, this was kind of his place. So that this blue line that you see now essentially kind of spans out the area where the Buddha was teaching his career at that particular time. So you can see it is large if you have to walk on foot, but for when you come by plane and things, of course, makes it very accessible. But it's a fairly small area. It is not as if the Buddha went to Sri Lanka or anything like that, which is claimed by some dodgy characters. So here we come to a crossroads, and I think we just go south. South. Piprava. See this Piprava down here? Yeah, come to the end of the blue line. This is the site of Kapilavatthu. Yeah, Kapilavatthu is the capital of the Sakyan kingdom. This is where the Buddha grew up. Yeah, this is kind of where his father was, his mother, King Suddhodana was there, his son Rahula, his wife, maybe it was Yashodhara, a bit unsure. This is where he grew up. So this is how do we know that this is Kapilavatthu? And because the Nepalese say Kapilavatthu is in Nepal, the Indians say it's in India. So who is right? Well, it was not in Norway, we know that much. But so this is kind of interesting when you have different people arguing over these things. How do you know? And of course, the way to do it is to do archaeological excavations. And the archaeological excavations, they found little, what do they call them? Little medallions, which said Kapilavatthu on them. Okay, case closed. Yeah, that was it. That was kind of the final proof. No need for anything more. And so this seems to be Kapilavatthu. And very close to Kapilavatthu is that stupa I was talking about before, 1 kilometer away. Yeah? It fits very well because you make the stupa a little bit outside of the city. Yeah? And so you have the stupa kilometer away, and then you have Kapilavatthu. So we will be able, I think, to see both of those sides when we are there. So here you go. So you have Piprava over here. This is Kapilavatthu. And then you have Ganvarya. See Ganvarya over here? This is where the stupa is. So in those days, this was all forest. Now it's all fields. It's a bit disappointing, isn't it? All fields. We don't want fields. We want jungle. Is that what you want? So this is the Kapilavatthu, and then down here is the stupa, Ganvarya, whatever it is, in this area over here. A little bit of jungle. Maybe if you're lucky, we'll see a tiger in there. So this is what it looks like. Yeah. So I have never been to this place before, so this is going to be very exciting for me as well to see these little places. Then you go back out again the next day, coming out again. Actually, not the next, it's all on the same day. So we go here, then we go out again, and we go north onto the same road. And then we continue up towards the east. East. Wow. What happened now? There we are, Lumbini. Okay, I just went past Lumbini. So this is the border. You can see the border there. The white line is the border. They go into Nepal. And so don't forget to get your visa for Nepal. Is that right, Eileen?
Yes, the tour agent will get it for us.
Tour agent will do it for us. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, good. So visa for... So this is Lumbini. And this is where the Buddha was born. And so each of these places, there are like different suttas that are interesting, which say something about the place. And you may wonder, what sutta can there be about Lumbini? The Buddha wasn't even born yet. So what can there be to be said about that? And the sutta which is about the Buddha's birth is called the Acharya Buddha Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 123. And it talks a bit about the events around the Buddha's birth. It's obviously they were told afterwards. And so we're going to look at that sutta there, and maybe also some other suttas. Kapilavatthu, that we saw just before, which is the Sakyans' capital, is also very interesting. Many interesting things happening there, like this is when the Buddha goes back home and all the Sakyans decide to become monks and nuns. They go forth. Lots of nice stories about that. Stories about Rahula when he becomes a monk. And you know the story about Rahula becoming a monk? So his mother see the Buddha comes, and his mother says to Rahula, "Okay, now go and get your inheritance." You know that story? And then the Buddha says, "Okay, ordain Rahula." That's kind of that's the story, because that's the inheritance, right, from the Buddha's point of view. And so I feel a bit sorry for the mother. That wasn't what she meant. So we're going to look at some of these stories, and these are, I'm very happy to say that some of these are my own translations. So I'm going to show off my own translations when we go to India. That will be exciting. So I would really recommend you to look up some of these suttas, because, and they will be referred to in the book by Venerable Dhammika. You can look them up and read them. And some of the main suttas to read, one of the most interesting one is the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, the sutta on the Buddha's great passing away. And the reason is because that has a lot of information about the various places. It shows the Buddha traveling between the places. That's where you find about the Buddha's passing away. We come to Kushinara soon. That's where you find things about the Vulture Peak, about Vesali, about many of these very important sites. That is a very fundamental sutta to look at. We'll look up the suttas in a second. I'll just carry on with a tour for now. So Lumbini, another beautiful place, very peaceful. And then stay there for the morning, and then in the afternoon we head off towards Kushinara. So you see, following the blue line, blue. I I think we fall in the blue. I don't know. This is just Google's suggestion, so I assume Google has got it approximately right. So we follow along. Is this correct? Okay, but just go out a little bit so we can see what's happening. And then you cross the border again over here, back into India. Ding, ding. Go away. Oh, how far is it? There we are. Here we are. Kushinagar. Yeah, so this is the famous place where the Buddha passed away here. Yeah. So here you have the Mahaparinibbana temple and all of these things. So now you can see coming closer here. So you have the Parinibbana stupa over here. Very famous stupa, the famous temple. And yeah, so this is again, all of these things are talked about in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta and all the events that happen. This is kind of the park over here where all of these things are found. You see, it doesn't look quite as wild as it was in the time of the Buddha, does it? It's too very, very kind of built up. So let me just zoom out so you can see what's happening. Yeah, so we have traveled all the way from the left over here, all the way to Kushinagar over here so far. So this is about almost like halfway here, if you like. And then from Kushinagar or Kusinara, which is where the Buddha passed away, then we go south this way, south to Saranath, Varanasi. And this is where the Buddha teach the first sermon. Yeah, so this is where the Dhammacakka Sutta was proclaimed, also the Anattalakkana Sutta, the Sutta on the characteristics of non-self. And just south of Saranath, of course, you have the famous city of Varanasi. Yeah, Benares you have down here. Very famous with the guts and the river and the corpses burning, all that kind of stuff. And then you have the Buddhist temple here of Saranath up here. So this is also another very beautiful place. I really love Saranath, to be honest. And so this is our chance to hang out where the Buddha hung out. And then we're going to speak the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. And when that was done, Venerable Kandanya became a stream enter at that time. So we're going to count the number of stream enter afterwards, after saying this sutta, see what happens. So it's nice in theory, these things, but the reality is often quite difficult how you actually end up becoming a stream enter. But this is very nice. So then the trip carries on. This is a good place also to come on board the trip because Varanasi is a big city, there's a nice airport and things, so you can actually join the trip halfway if anyone can't do the whole thing. Yeah, or maybe that's not up to me to decide. It's up to other people to decide. I shouldn't say these things. So then we go from Varanasi, and the trip goes to Vaishali or Vaishali. All the way along this way. Vaishali is over here, Vaishali. So this is a place where the Buddha spent a lot of time. This is the capital of the famous, what are they called again? Anyway, the capital of that republic of that area. And this is also where the Buddha spent a lot of time. Lots of interesting suttas were spoken in Vaishali. And so it's worth a visit. Maybe not quite so interesting, but it's on the way. So we'll stop there and visit before we start to go south. And when we go south, we go down to Nalanda. You see Nalanda down here? Yeah, Nalanda. So this is where the famous university was built. Yeah, the famous university, very famous ruins of those marvelous universities. Let's see if we can get some of those ruins up. Nalanda bus stand. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, we're not seeing that. Here we are. This must be no, that's train station, bus stand. How come there's no picture of the actual? Okay, never mind. Anyway, the very, very fabulous ruins of Nalanda University are found here somewhere. Well, this is a modern university here. Never mind. Again, it's not very important from Buddhist point of view. It's more important from the point of view of later Buddhist history. And then from Nalanda, if we go further south, and as we go south, we come to Rajgir, which is over here. And Rajgir is a modern day name for the ancient Rajagaha, right? It used to be called Rajagaha in the old days. So what is going on here? I do not know. I am now very confused. What? So somewhere here you find the various parts of ancient Rajagaha, the famous bamboo grove, the 𝐺𝐫𝐴𝐚𝐸, all of these things are here somewhere. But where? Oh. Too difficult for me to find out on the spot, I think. Where are the famous hills of Rajagaha? Maybe this is it. Here we are. Here we are. Yeah. So we have the Rajgir is over here, and here are all the various kind of holy places. Here you have the 𝐺𝐫𝐚𝐡𝐧, Vulture's Peak. Look at that. Cool, isn't it? Look at how wild and untouched it seems. There's no buildings there. It's been kept the way it was going a long way back. That is the Vulture Peak. Let's see what else we have here. Over here somewhere is the Satapani cave. I think it should be over here somewhere. There we are, Satapani cave. Yeah, this is where the first council was held when they recited the suttas after the Buddha's passing away. That's over here. This is full of historical places. All of this is very beautiful. There's like mountainous hills. You recognize the landscape from the suttas. It's exactly the way it is described in the suttas. It's called the hill fort in the suttas. Giribhaja, yeah, that's the name of the place in the suttas. And Giribhaja means a hill fort because the hills go all the way around, and it forms like a fort around the city of Rajagaha. And today there's nothing inside of that hill fort, but in the old days the city was there. Now there's nothing there. Now the city is on the outside, which is great because it means it has a very nice feel to it, has a very peaceful and good feel to it for that reason. Here you have the Venuvan, see over here? Yeah, this is the Veluvana. This is the bamboo grove. This was given by King Bimbisara to the Buddha. Also found in the Vinaya Pitaka. That's over there. He has this one historical site after the other. Isn't this exciting? What do you think? Yeah, I think it's really exciting. These are the cold water swimming pool. So these are the ancient hot springs. Yeah, you find it over here. And this is where they were bathing at the time of the Buddha. Yeah, so the same kind of springs that were used in those days are also used now. Why is it called cold water? I'm not sure. It's supposed to be hot water, but anyway, so that's the only the only uncertainty there. You can see how wild it is. Yeah, there's just trees and wilderness and all of these kind of things. What else have we got down here? What are all of these places? Bimbisara's jail. That's interesting. So this is where Bimbisara supposedly was kept in jail by his son, where eventually he died. Then you have a 𝐺𝐫𝐴𝐚𝐸. This is the 𝐺𝐫𝐴𝐴𝐚𝐸 Vihara. This is where I was just mentioning before at the talk this morning, where the Buddha, the king came and didn't recognize the Buddha. There was a large assembly of 1,200 monks, and this was in this place here. There was a bamboo mango grove given by Jivaka, the Buddha's physician, to the Sangha. That's there. But then there is one very interesting thing, which I did mention briefly this morning, which is a little bit on the outside. So now we're going to, this is a very dangerous area full of gangsters. You know that? Lots of gangsters around. Do you like gangsters? Makes it more interesting. So India is kind of, you have to be careful because India is kind of famously dangerous place to be. And so I'm sure we will be fine, but there is a place over here somewhere. Let's see if we can find it on the map. This is not as famous as the other one. This is where the Indasala Guha is, the cave of where the Sakapanya Sutta was spoken. I mentioned that this morning. The questions of Sakka, the head of the gods, were asked apparently in this particular cave, and it's quite remarkable that that cave actually is still available. But now all I can see is a Vishnu temple and other places that we are not so interested in. Rajgir Hill. Maybe it is not on the map. There it is. Indasala. There you are. Indasala cave. That's what it looks like. It's pretty cool, isn't it? So probably we will come with bus or something to come around there, and then we will go into that cave, and then maybe we can have a look at this famous sutta while we are going to this particular cave.
Ajahn, it's quite a climb, I think.
It's only for people who are fit. Yeah,
it could be. Or you can, you can hire those
people to carry you. Okay, no one over 80 can come. You have to be under 80, otherwise too dangerous. So. Yeah, but we will find. I will go anyway. So anyone who wants to come along is welcome. If you don't want to go, then it's your loss.
Been arranged.
Has been arranged. Yeah. Are you coming, Eiling?
Yes. This is Ajahn special request to be included in the itinerary.
You sound a bit reluctant, Eiling. I hear the reluctance in your voice.
I had to talk to the tour agent, and I said, "Is that a half-day climb?" They said, "No, you can get the
porters to take you there." Yeah. Okay. So this is for the adventurous of you. So if you're not adventurous, you can chill out in the hotel to see what you want to do. So so that is a special treat because you have to do things. You can't do the same thing every time you go because I've been on this trip many times before. So you have to do some new things. Otherwise, your mind stagnates, your mind ossifies, and then you get Alzheimer's afterwards. So that's the problem. So that is Rajgir. And then from Rajgir, which is so nice, then we go to the final place. In many ways, maybe the most important place of all, which of course is Bodhgaya, all the way down the bottom here. There we are, last place on the trip, Bodhgaya. So you can see that it is not as isolated as it was at the time of the Buddha. So built up, right? This is Bodhgaya. So we have the Mahabodhi temple. This is actually the Mahabodhi temple over here. So this is the main place we will be going to, is this Mahabodhi temple. And you can see this is quite beautiful. Yeah, beautiful gardens, all kinds of stupas. You have the various stupas the Buddha was sitting there that commemorate the trees that the Buddha was sitting under after his awakening. All of this is found over here. And over here, there's a Barbie shop. That's what it says, Barbie shop. So that is not on the plan. Yeah. Very strange, isn't it? It's kind of this strange mixture of things. So this is Bodhgaya right there. And then from there, airport, and then back to Bangkok, and then Singapore, and then you die after that. It's true. This is not a joke. Eventually that happens. Yeah, you can see the river here. Yeah, the large river over here. This is the river, like the Niranjana River, where the Buddha was bathing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What do you think about this so far? Does it sound too much, too long, too short, just right? Any comments on this?
Just right.
Just right. Okay. So, would you like to see some of the suttas that are useful? That a good idea? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll show you some of the suttas. But before I do that, any comments? Any anti-comments? Any nothing? No one wants to say anything here? Okay.
We have about 26 people online.
Okay, 26 people online. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can type your questions in the chat box if you want to ask.
Yeah. Okay, so no questions. That's okay. So then we will have a look at some of the suttas that are central to this. So I'm going to show you where to find suttas. Yeah. So first thing to know is the right website. So this is the best website to go to, suttacentral.net. Do you all know about this website? Yeah. And if you didn't know, now you know. Yeah. So this is right there, suttacentral.net. And so this is what the front page of this, what it looks like, the front page. Let's just expand this. We'll get rid of all the junk. And you can see here, there's three kind of areas. There are the suttas over here called the basket of discourses, Sutta Pitaka. Then you have the Vinaya Pitaka in the middle, and then you have the Abhidhamma Pitaka here on the right. Yeah, so these are the T Pitaka, the three baskets. And most of the things that we are interested in are found over here in the discourses, but some of it is also found here in the monastic law, which is the Vinaya. So let's have a look at these discourses. So this is what it looks like. So you have the long discourses, Digha Nikaya, middle discourses, linked discourses, and numbered discourses, Anguttara Nikaya. So one of the most interesting of all the suttas is found here in the long discourses. So you go to the long discourses, and so you click on the top here. This is the main one. This is the Pali version, and then you have the versions in Chinese and things down here. This is the Pali version. And 3 sections of long discourses. The great chapter is where you find the one we're looking at now, we want to look at. And here you have all the suttas, they're one after the other. And this is the one we are interested in, the great discourse on the Buddha's extinguishment, the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. And then you have various translations. You have by Bhikkhu Bhante Sujato and Venerable Ananda Jyoti. And I will probably be using Bhante Sujato's translations on this trip. And so if you want to look at those, that is useful, or maybe sometimes Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. We'll see what happens. So let's have a look at this sutta very quickly. Ding! There it is. Can you see at all? Can you see now? Yeah? Okay, you don't have to see all that much. But this is one I would really recommend you to look at because it has a lot of interesting information about the things that we are going to see on this trip. So it starts off here on the Vulture Peak mountain, yeah, the Gidjakuta Pabata, and this is what we will see when we go to Rajagaha. So this is one of those famous places at the time of the Buddha. And the Buddha gives some very interesting instructions about the things that will lead to the decline of Buddhism in the future and the things that will uphold Buddhism in the future. And we are in the future. Yeah, compared to the sutta, we are in the future, right? So these are very relevant for how we should look at the world and how we should uphold the Dhamma. It is all really found there for us. So this is all very, very fascinating. And then the Buddha walks. Yeah, he walks from there. One of the first places that he comes to after here is, I think he goes to Patna. I don't think he goes to Nalanda. He goes to, let's have a quick look where he goes after this. Let's go to Nalanda, right? So then the Buddha goes to Nalanda. So that's there too. So then we can have a look at what happens in Nalanda. Then he goes from Nalanda to Patna. We're not going to be stopping in Patna, but that's okay. And then he goes from there to Vesali. So we can look at some of the events happening in Vesali. And after Vesali, he then goes to Kushinara, where the Buddha eventually passes away. Yeah, so all of these events are found in there. So this is a very core sutta. And you may also be interested, if you are really, really keen, I have done a long series of sutta discussions on the sutta, presenting the sutta. It is found on the bswa.org, Buddhist Society Western Australia.org. And it takes a long time because I think it took 20 hours or 25 hours to go through the sutta, go through in quite a bit of detail. But if you are super duper keen, that is a possibility, yeah? When instead of going on a stupid holiday overseas, sit at home listening to the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. Or take it with you when you go on the MRT and you can listen to it maybe when you're on your way to work or whatever else you're doing. It's always a nice thing to do. So this is a very important, very fundamental sutta. Digha Nikaya 16, Mahaparinibbana Sutta. Okay. So that is that one. Also very interesting. Maybe we should go to, let's go from the beginning to make it a bit easier. Let's go first of all to the Buddha's birth, right? That's found in the middle-length discourses. So you have the middle-length discourse of the Buddha, and it is in the last 50. Ding! Chapter emptiness. The incredible and amazing sutta. Yeah, because it is a bit incredible and amazing. That's why it's called that. It's the middle-length sayings of the Buddha, number 123. Yeah, this is about the birth of the Buddha. MN 123. Yeah, and again, Bhante Sujato, and there you are. And so we will have a brief look at that. It has a lot of information about what happened around the time of the Buddha's birth. Mindful and aware, being intent on awakening. The being intent on awakening, that's the Bodhisattva, passed away from the host of joyful gods and was conceived in his mother's womb. This too, I remember as an incredible quality of the Buddha. So it's a bit like this. There's a little bit more kind of mythological kind of sutta. But it is there, and for that reason, it deserves a little bit of attention. That is the Buddha's birth. Then we have, of course, some suttas about the Buddha's growing up. That is in Kapilavatthu. And there are discourses about what happened to the Buddha when he was young. You all know about the story when he was sitting under the rose apple tree and he kind of entered the jhana state. We know that sutta. You know which sutta that is? You know the sutta? No? Okay. So now I can teach you something. Okay. So I hope I get this right. It should be in Majjhima Nikaya 26. Yeah, middle-length sayings of the Buddha. You go to the number 26, MN 26. the noble search, the sutta we were looking at just the other day. Yeah, the first talk I gave when I came here, I talked about this particular sutta. And there you are. This is a very beautiful sutta in so many different ways. But does it have the part when he was sitting under the rose apple tree? No, I don't think it does. I think I'm mixing up here. So there you are. So much for trusting me with what is going on. But regardless, this is a sutta about all the events that led up to the Buddha's awakening. And so it is very important anyway. The noble quest. So the sutta I'm looking for, I think, is number 36, not 26, 36. So we all get a few chances in life to get things right. So here you are, the longer discourse with Saccaka. It goes on for a while. And then we have these very so we have all the ascetic practices, and the Buddha almost dies, and then comes the famous passage down here. Yeah, this is the passage. I recall sitting in the cool shade of the rose apple tree while my father the second was off working, and then quite secluded from sensual pleasures, etc. I entered and remained in the first jhana. This is where this famous passage happens. So this is very important to have a look at when we go to Kapilavatthu, because this happened in Kapilavatthu when the Buddha was growing up. A lot of things happen in Kapilavatthu. Yeah, and these two suttas also are about the awakening of the Buddha. So this is also going to be relevant for Bodhgaya. Yeah, so Majjhima 26, Majjhima 36. Are you taking notes of the suttas, Eileen? Yeah, okay, taking notes. So if you take notes, that's good, because then you have them, you know the numbers, and then you can make a list for people later on. So Digha Nikaya 16, Majjhima Nikaya 123, Majjhima Nikaya 26, and Majjhima Nikaya 36. These are the ones I have looked at so far. So these are all nice and useful. Then we have something else. Let's go back to here. Now I'm going to have a look at the basket of the monastic law. So these are my translations. And so these are, do you see my name over there? It's cool, isn't it? Ha. And so then you have the monastic law, and so this is the various books of the monastic law. So we go to the legal topics, and this is the going forth. So this is the first chapter, and this has the story of the Buddha after his awakening. Yeah, so all of this relates to the Buddha's awakening. So this is the first chapter of the legal topics in the monastic law. Yeah, I'm not sure if you're able to. So there it is. You have the URL there, and this is the various account of what happened at that particular time. Yes, the Buddha under the Bodhi tree after his awakening, and then you have the how the Buddha was asked to. You have the two first disciples of the Buddha who come along at that particular time, who Ballika and Tapussa. Yeah, they come when the Buddha is there. And you have the story of the Naga, which kind of covers the Buddha when it's raining, a rainstorm comes. All of these things are here. Then you have the Brahma Sahampati asking the Buddha to give the first to teach. Then you have the long stories of lots of supernormal powers. Is that good or bad? What was that? Interesting. Okay, so maybe we can have a look at some of these supernormal powers. So we'll see what happens. What happened to something going on here? Upaka, the group of 5. Yeah. Of course, this is the first sermon, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, and how they became enlightened. Then you have the story of Yasa, which is kind of a nice story, the Yasa going forth. And then you have the the account of the Lord of Death, this Mara coming, trying to mess things up, and etc., etc. The accounts of the wonders of Uruvela. This is where the Buddha converts 1,000 fire-worshipping ascetics, and they have this this kind of display of all kinds of supernormal powers. It's very unusual, all of these kind of events that happen here. So this is very, this is an important part of this. I'm going to kind of make this much more accessible as we go through this. Especially when we come to India, we probably have a little booklet for you as well with all of these suttas put together, so we can kind of look at them as we go along. Yeah. Yeah. And there's lots of other suttas that you can look at, because lots of suttas that are tied to these places. One example of a sutta that is tied to these places is the where Venerable Sariputta becomes enlightened. This is the Digha-naka Sutta, the long nail sutta. There's a fellow called Long Nails because he had a long nail, and he was a cousin apparently of Venerable Sariputta. And this happened in the Boar's Cave. The Boar's Cave is on the Vulture Peak. And then you can sit in that same cave now and you can read out this sutta. It's very kind of exciting. So that is one example. Then we can go to the what's it called? The bamboo grove, the Veluvana. And that was given by King Bimbisara to the Buddha. And so you can read a little bit about King Bimbisara and the offering of the gift of the bamboo grove. That's very nice. Then there's the Jivaka Ambavana, the Jivaka's mango grove. Read some of the story of Jivaka. Jivaka was a physician. Yeah, he was he was a bit like Dr. Henry Yeo at the back there. I can see you, Henry. Yeah, but he was the Buddha's physician. Yeah, so he was kind of a special one, and he was the world's first brain surgeon. Did you know that, Henry? He was a brain surgeon. That story is there. Yeah, he opened up the skull of someone, took out little creatures, and put it all back together again. This is the world's first brain surgery. It's recorded in the scriptures of Buddhism. That's kind of cool, isn't it? It's kind of amazing. Everything happened first in the scriptures of Buddhism. So that is stories that we can have a look at in a little bit more detail. And there is a variety of things. I haven't really prepared all that well for here because I just wanted to give people a rough idea of what's happening in India without actually going into a large amount of details about what we're going to do. So yeah, I think that is probably enough in terms of the suttas, because is there any questions about the suttas? Anyone that have certain special suttas that think should be included in this, or what do you think? Yeah.
Any questions?
So this is the itinerary, in case you would like to have a look at the itinerary. So this is the things that was sent out by Eiling. Yeah.
Yeah, just that there's a change in the Sankasya.
What is changed there?
I will send out a new itinerary later on. Because there's only one hotel there and there's only 29 rooms. So we need to go after Sankasya, we will go to Lucknow probably to stay.
Okay.
So I'll change the itinerary once the agent has confirmed.
Okay.
Because there's no way there's 70 of us squeezed into 29 rooms.
Okay.
That is even if we get the whole hotel to ourselves.
Yeah. But in any case, this gives a good idea of the program. And you can see it follows the same route we were talking about before. And it has some nice pictures in here as well, give you some idea what things look like. You have the Buddha relics, you have the temple in Sankasya. This is Shravasti, this is Savatthi, the Gandha Kuti, the fragrant kuti of the Buddha. And then you have Lumbini. There's no picture from Lumbini. Oh, there, yeah, this is Lumbini picture down here, down in the bottom right-hand corner. This is from the famous temple in Lumbini. And the then you have Kushinagar. This is the quite beautiful temple in Kushinara, the very famous barrel vaulted roof, which has this particular temple over here. And inside that temple, you find this Buddha statue that you see on the left here, the reclining Buddha statue for obvious reasons, where the Buddha passed away. Then from there, you go to Varanasi. So these are the very famous stupas in Varanasi. This is called the Dhamek stupa. Very beautiful stupa, and originally there was a second stupa there called the Dhammarajika stupa, and that was demolished by this Indian lord back in the late 18th century, 1790 or something like that. And he found some bones in the middle of the stupa, and he thought, yeah, there's some rubbish, and he threw it in the Ganges. That probably were Buddha relics that he just kind of chucked in the Ganges. So this is what happens. Kind of an amazing story. Then you have Vesali, and you can see here you have the Ashokan pillars. Yeah, this is one of the things you will see when we go to India. You see the Ashokan pillar over there. These are the things that were set up by Ashoka, and many of those have inscriptions that are essentially Buddhist in nature, where he talks about being nice to animals and these kind of things. Here you have Nalanda on the bottom right. So this is the famous University of Nalanda, which came to exist several hundred years after the Buddha, maybe around 200 AD was when Nalanda University started to exist, and it went on for about 1,000 years as a great institution of learning in India. And the various monks and monastics of different lineages, they were all living together in harmony, even though they came from different schools and things, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. Then you have Rajgir, so this is the Gijjakuta there, the Vulture's Peak. And then lastly, Bodhgaya, with the Bodhgaya temple, etc. over there. And then that's it.
Ajahn, is Vesali where the Ratana Sutta was chanted, right?
Yes, according to tradition, that's right. Yeah. Yes, we will be doing it. We will probably be discussing it, and we may be chanting it maybe as well. Do you know how to chant it? Okay. You must have the sheet. Okay, so we get the sheet. We get the sheet in Pali, and then maybe we can chant it together in Pali. That's always very, very inspiring. Yeah. One of the things we do at Bodhinyana Monastery, every rains retreat, we chant these suttas in Pali, the Dhammacakka and the Anatalakkhana and all of these suttas. And it's very nice, especially if you understand the meaning, it's very nice. So if you don't understand the meaning, I will explain it to you as we go along. So,
Any more questions? Any from the online? No.
So are you afraid of India, or are you happy to go to India, or are you a little bit afraid, a little bit happy, or how are you feeling about this? Are you excited, or are you excited because you are, wow, this is Buddhism, or are you excited because, oh, scary, or mixed feelings? And those of you who are not going, how come you're not going? Well, no luck. Okay, not enough places. Yeah, we should have 10 buses instead of 2, you know. No, I think it's a good idea not to have too many people, because it becomes a bit more personal when it's fewer people. You know, if it's too many, it's like you become one ant in an ant colony, and it kind of loses some of its it loses something when it's too many people. Yeah. Okay. Shall we just do the Arahang Samma Sambuddha to
Yes.
finish off? It's always nice to finish off in a nice way. So let's do that together. So just. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Svakatu Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.